Yvette Kelly Fields, Executive Director for UpDayton, and I live over in Upper Riverdale, which is right off of North Main Street. I live on Laura Avenue here in Dayton, Ohio.
Okay.
And I'm Amy Forstoffel, and I live in the McPherson Town Historic District on the banks of the Great Miami River, just north of downtown Dayton.
Okay. You guys are both a member of UpDayton.
Yes.
And what does UpDayton do?
UpDayton works to attract and retain young talent in the Dayton area and surrounding cities through civic engagement and through advocacy for young professionals.
That's the mission statement, isn't it?
That's the mission statement.
All right, good
That's
deal.
why we hired her to be the executive director.
All right.
Even though I'm willing to.
One of the things I think we're confronted with in the Dayton area is diversity issues, racial acceptance, just acceptance in general.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that since I mentioned it to you, and I think it's a lot bigger than race. It's acceptance of sexual orientation, of economic diversity, as well as racial diversity, like tolerance for poor people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a huge issue, and I think that's why we have such segregation in our city, between the suburbs and sort of the inner core. It's less about race and more about economic diversity.
Well, so see, from my point of view, I would see it probably. I'm a black person, obviously.
You are?
I'm black. Did you know that? Yeah.
You were telling me.
I know. I should tell more people. But the idea is that from an African American point of view, when I talk with my friends, when we think about Dayton, we think about it from a racial point of view because we see that confrontation more. And now I will say, since I've been doing work with UpDayton, so I've seen the racial side, and then not with UpDayton, but I know the racial side of it. But then talking with people in UpDayton and all the types of projects we're doing, now I see more of the class segregation. I had no idea that there was such a separation by class. And that speaks to what Amy was saying, when, you know, there's even another class of people that's like, okay, if you're not this, then you're poor. And poor people are segregated no matter what your race is. Mm-hmm. And so then you have another level of segregation that you didn't even know other people had to experience. I remember talking to somebody when we were looking at doing some partnerships for our diversity initiative. And they said, and they work for an organization that does a lot on diversity, mm-hmm. and they said there was an issue in one of the suburban neighborhoods where they had to go into one of the schools and talk with the kids about class diversity because one young lady was getting picked on because her house wasn't as big as somebody else. I mean, she was getting verbally assaulted, like just horrible. And I'm like, someone's picking on. It wasn't like she was living in a little small $25,000 home. She was living, I think, in
I hear about that even in Oakwood. The kids who go
mm-hmm.
to Smith versus the kids who go to Harmon Elementary. I mean, there's definitely a class in between whether you live on the east side of Far Hills or the west side of Far Hills.
And it's vicious, you know. It's just as detrimental to people's self-esteem. And so, you know, if you're talking to people about living in a community, and if they come in the community and they see, okay, there's already racial lines, there's already class lines, you know, you can go here, but it's understood that you don't go there. You can live here, and it's understood that you don't live there. I mean, that's right.
And it's a real problem for Dayton. And I think...
what do you think makes it the problem it is compared to other places where
I think they're
a lot more progressive and successful in this area?
Yeah, I think unfortunately there's a natural division with the rivers. Mm-hmm. And the rivers have created some divides that are very hard to cross. Bridges only go so far. So I think that underscores some of the problems. But there isn't a river that separates downtown from the south suburbs, and there's still some kind of a division there as well. I think some of it's just our Midwestern mentality, that people have strong opinions and they are very structured in their thought, and they stay with their own similar types of people and never branch out and get exposed to new ideas. So mm-hmm. I think that it's really important that groups like UpDayton that Yvette and I are working with are trying to figure out ways to encourage people to interact and learn from each other and help make a more of a mosaic in the community instead of all of this patchwork quilt that we've got going on here. And I think that's incredibly important. And we have done surveys with young people who we hear are the future of our region. We have to keep these people people graduating from local universities, staying in the region, and not moving to places like Portland or Austin or Boulder or places that sound really cool to live in. And in order to get them to live here, we have to fulfill on some needs and interests that they have. And one of those is living in a place that's exciting and people are living together and working together and playing together. And we're not doing that right now. Not doing it very well.
I agree. I think in some parts of Dayton, I think people are stuck. I mean, I don't want to say kind of are. You have a lot of people in Dayton who always go back to the Great Migration. You had a lot of people a lot of African Americans particularly moved here from the South. You had a lot of whites that moved here from the South with a certain thinking when they moved here. So the city was almost settled in as a segregated city. And I'm not sure if it ever broke away from that model. Even when you try to segregate the schools, you had a lot of people who moved out of the city. And so the people that were left here were poor people and then people of color that were left. So when you have that part, then you have another group of people on what I consider the outer ring who now pretty much control the city, even though they don't live in the city because of their affiliation with corporations and business. I think you probably saw more diversity starting to develop when you had strong manufacturing, some of those things, because that kind of blurred some lines. You know, everybody can make some really good money, so people can move other places. As you start to see that erode away, people kind of started to retract back to what they knew, and I think that's why you see a little bit of that still there. But what I really like is that we've had a lot of people who've come into our city. Like with UpDayton, there's a lot of people who are considered transplants. They weren't Dayton born, so they transplanted to Dayton and they love Dayton, and they don't have all those issues. So
have
you
that
see more
legacy.
Don't have
they
that
don't even
legacy.
see it.
They don't see it. So they bring all their diversity with them. So it doesn't really matter what your socioeconomic background and racial, gender, sexual orientation, none of that matters.
City of Dayton versus the suburbs, and I guess that's another reason why I contribute time to UpDayton. Is that really frustrates me too, that there's this separatist movement that because you live in Centerville, you're not connected to Dayton. And we're a region. And it doesn't say Centerville on the map when you look at a large-scale map of Ohio. It says Dayton, and you belong to that. And I even have friends who live in Springboro who tell people that they're from Cincinnati instead of Dayton because they're ashamed, I think, of the fact that they're from Dayton. And it goes back to what you said earlier, that we're our worst enemy. You know, I have a brother who lives, he's lived in Boulder. From Boulder, he moved to Portland, Oregon, and now he just moved to Missoula, Montana. And when they come back here to visit now, they're amazed at me, like all the things that we have to offer. And they're like, what are people complaining about? This is awesome. Are you kidding? And I think that maybe we just don't know how good we have it. We haven't been out of the area enough.
We don't know.
Yeah, do you think Dayton, in large part, at least, I'm talking about the whole area and its mindset, kind of like went to 1977 and stayed there?
I think there's some pockets that are still like that, but I see that change. Maybe in another generation you'll see a more complete change, but the more I have conversations with people, I mean, every time I'm talking with somebody, they talk about how great Dayton is, all the assets. So I think as other people are moving along and newer people are moving in, and more people are doing stuff like this, having a conversation and exposing it on a wider level, then I think you're starting to see perceptions change. I tell people, if you lived here all your life, this is all you know, and so you don't think much of it. Go live some other places, and then come back here and you have a different perception. It's true. Every time I talk to people who've been to Chicago, New York, whatever, they come back to Dayton, and they have a whole different appreciation for Dayton. Not that you don't love those places for the fast living and some of the good stuff they have, but then you come back to Dayton, you think about all the good things that are here. And then another great thing, which we see a lot of that popping up over on around Wayne Avenue, is people go and come back and they see some establishments they saw in New York, and it's like, it'd be so great to have this here in Dayton. Like the Press over on Wayne Avenue. You know, I had somebody tell me about it. It's like, yeah, it feels like a cafe you would find in New York. And there's a couple that came here and they started a little cafe. And I love going in there. It's a great space. So that's one of the great things when you can go other places and bring it back to Dayton. And it just broadens your view. If you've always lived in Dayton, you've got the GM, manufacturing mindset, A lot of people are suffering from the "Who moved my cheese" syndrome. Where's my cheese? My cheese. It was a GM truck. You know, it's not coming back. You know, so but I feel like.
And I think that's another great story you touched upon is Press and even Olive, which is a new restaurant that's going to open just on the street there. And they're both businesses being opened by young people in that under 40 age range who are willing to invest and take a risk in the community instead of waiting to score some job at a giant manufacturer. So I think that that is what our success is going to be in the future is people who make their own future and don't wait for somebody else to hand it to them. I think that's just the only way we're all going to survive.
I agree. At one point, Dayton was a much more thriving, viable city because things were going well, prosperous-wise. And I think as we start to make that turn, people see the opportunities open up for them, then I think you'll see a lot more people open up to things. But when money is one of those things, when it kind of goes down, people kind of retract back to what they know. And so I think as we see some changes there, people having hope that Dayton has a new face. It's not the manufacturing is gone, but we are a new group of innovators, business owners, people who can replace the jobs that are lost with our own hands, with our own work, with our own minds. I think you'll see that kind of genius coming out of Dayton, and then I think you'll start to see even more people feeling like Dayton is a place to be.
I agree. And hopefully those new places that are developed are welcoming to everybody.
Everybody.
And it's the safe place for us to all hang out, commingle, all those things that people tell us that they want in order to stay here in the community and not move away.
Yeah, they want to be in a place where people around them are comfortable and happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's really all.
You should be able to find yourself in Dayton. Whatever you are, you should be able to find you in Dayton.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. You can find you can get lost if you want to. You know, that's another thing. Like a lot of the kids from out in some of these, what you probably more culturally conservative areas, they used to come to Dayton because, you know, there's a thriving underground art scene. You know, they were accepted. There was a LGBT scene in Dayton. There still is. The music scene. And I think that people need to be reminded that's all still going on. You can catch that, like, and, you know, you can live in a place where there's all kinds of, like, bohemian care.
Too, you know? I think that's the other piece that we forget, is that we have to accept not just the freaks. We love the freaks, but the mainstream has to find their niche here too, right?
Sure.
So we all have to find our own little thing. Live up to that City of Neighbors moniker.
Yeah, we're a city of neighbors.
Yeah.
City of neighbors.
As long as you stay in your neighborhood and I stay in mine.
We're a city of neighborhoods.
That's right.
It's neighborhoods.
What if you were czar, king, whatever title with all ultimate power? What would you do tomorrow to start to solve that problem? You know,
I would make a regional government so that we're not so isolated into our little silos, and that my life, if I lived in the south suburbs, was somewhat more connected to the northwest suburbs, and that I felt somewhat socially responsible for my neighbors on the other side of the city. I think only having responsibility for those who live like a mile away from you makes you feel like they're not even part of your world, and you have nothing to gain from them, and you don't have any responsibility for them. That if one part of a system died, the whole thing is weakened. So I think that we really need to look harder at that whole concept of regionalism and how it acts as a whole instead of as its parts.
Same question for you.
Yeah, if I see Montgomery County, when I think about what the county can and can't do, I'd have to say, probably regionalism is the way to go. But first, I'd probably have to look at the city, because particularly the city of Dayton, I would need to have a change from a commissioner's mayor form of government to maybe a strong mayor form of government, which would allow the mayor to have a lot more authority to do some things. So that as a county person, I could talk to the mayor and let's just do this, versus having to deal with some commissioners and other things, all the different levels. Where you've seen regionalism work usually is a strong mayor form of government, which could just take over the city. Indianapolis, Louisville, those are all key places that people talk about when you look at that. And that would be, you have to make everybody feel like they have some stake in everybody's lives. It's not just me, it's we. So yeah, I would probably do that. So I would go from a city out perspective.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you very much for your time tonight.